Hello everybody, today I'm going to be reading Wimpy Kid Greg and the Apocalypse by u/retro-bozo on Reddit. Again, I don't actually write these stories, I just read them. I want to be clear about that, because people always ask me, like, how do I write these, where do I write these? There is actually, like, a full, like, tool kit for writing these Wimpy Kid stories on r/loaded diaper, I think it's like the pinned post. But yeah, always make sure to credit the writer and creator of this in the description. It is the link that says that. Anyway, also, I don't want to like go on too long with an intro because I don't really like doing that, but we did hit 3K and I'm super thankful for that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you know, the button's right there. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, let's get into Wimpy Kid Greg and the Apocalypse. Tuesday. I thought today would be a normal school day. I was wrong on so many levels. Greg, pack your bags. We gotta. What? I got out of bed and I got dressed. As soon as I got downstairs, I saw Dad loading his gun up. I've never seen the pistol, much less Dad holding it, so I knew something was wrong. He told me we had to leave. He made me stock up the car with a couple supplies, and then he hit the gas. Within the explosion smoke, I saw some moving figures. In the distance, looming around the debris, was a man, seemingly escaping the rubble. They had really visible injuries, and honestly, I don't know how he was still alive. I told Dad we should stop and help him. Instead, Dad booked it. I don't even know why. In the midst of the chaos, we should have at least brought him to a hospital. Poor bastard, we left him for dead. I hope he had a good life. At this point, I was so confused. Nobody's told me anything about this emergency. All I know is that we have to evacuate our homes. Suddenly, Dad started speaking up. Apparently there's this new virus going around. We don't know how serious it is, or much about it at all, for that matter. But what we do understand is that it changes the way people act. Sort of like rabies, I guess. It makes people violent and stuff, so we have to avoid them. As we got down our hill, we found out where the explosion came from. The entirety of Lower Surrey Street was gone. I guess the military wanted all the infected people to die, so they wouldn't spread anything. We traveled around for a couple hours, looking for a safe zone. The radio broadcast Dad got a hold of just told us to find somewhere secure to stay. We finally found a nice, safe-ish place. Dad told us we'll be staying here for the time being. Since there weren't any immediate dangers around us, I offered to check up on our supplies. Dad told me it was time to start living frugally, so I had to ration our food. I pulled out a notebook and started writing down all our food. 13 water bottles, 2 Jummy boxes, 7 different canned foods, 2 rowdy riots. We have enough for around a couple days at the most. Unless we find people willing to share, we'd be done for. Dad was understandably a little bit pissed at me. Greg, you idiot, our entire family's gonna starve. Our gas was low, but we couldn't travel on foot. It'd be dangerous. All our supplies are too heavy to carry around. All the rest of us could do was pray Dad drove around looking for the campsite. After driving around for 10 minutes, the car's fuel tank was empty. We all looked so hopeless. The infected people weren't in sight, but sooner or later, they'll stumble upon us. In the distance, however, there was a light, coming from a campfire. It was Rowley, Mr. Jefferson, and some other people. It was the campsite. I quickly told the rest of the family, and we rushed there on foot. When Rowley saw me, his depressing expression went away. Then he shouted at me, "Greg, you're alive!" Was he referring to the virus? It killed people? Right after, I saw Mr. Jefferson shushing him up. Instead of greeting us like I expected, Mr. Jefferson aimed a machine pistol at us. If you understand me, wave your arms and yell back at me. I was so confused, but none of us saw a way out, so we just did what he said. My bad, false alarm, it's alright guys, they haven't turned. Mr. Jefferson lowered his gun, and we finished the journey towards the camp. We had a lot of explaining to do. As we approached, I just noticed the time. It was dark, and the moon was already starting to rise. It felt like just a couple minutes ago I was shaken awake by Roderick. The camp was honestly pretty nice. I was reunited with a couple of old friends, and Dad seemed to be having a little chit-chat with Mr. Jefferson. Despite the panic, everyone seemed to be doing well here. Hey Robert, there's some sick person behind you. Do we help him? There was an infected person behind Mr. Jefferson. I had no idea what to do, but then I saw something I'll never forget. Frank, put the gun down. I'll deal with this myself. Oh, instinct, my bad. Mr. Jefferson stabbed the sick person. No hesitation, no remorse. Man, he started bawling uncontrollably. so Mom brought him into the Gupta family's RV. Shirag himself looked dead inside, and I personally threw up. Dad could barely understand what was going on. Neither could I. He started speaking up and asked Mr. Jefferson why he did that. Look, Frank, it was necessary. It was either that or we all die. That gunshot could have attracted even more walkers, and we can't risk that. He gave us a bit more context on the situation. Apparently, if you get bit by one of those things, you turn into one of them. Come on, let's go have dinner. I'll explain more there. We all sat down for dinner at the picnic bench, and Mr. Jefferson called for the others. That's when I saw some other familiar faces. Fragley and his mom, Abigail Brown and Mr. Brown. After some exchanges of hi and hellos, we prepared to eat. Right before I took a bite into my canned spaghetti, Mr. Jefferson started a speech. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the desperation of the situation. I was a bit annoyed, as it was my first meal I was going to have all day, but I decided to bear with it. I didn't want to be held at gunpoint for the second time today. None of you guys understand the severity of the situation. My wife died the day this started. Irritation turned to shock. That's what happened to Riley's mom? Mr. Jefferson's distress led to hyperventilation. It was practically contagious when he started talking about the unpredictable behavior and the cannibalism. He repeated what he said to me and Dad about the biting thing, and that's when he said it. There's no cure to this thing. All the infected, they're dead and rotting. You can only kill them. I checked over every radio channel. They're all down. Nobody's alive to operate them anyways. This isn't just some bombing phase. It's the end of the world as we know it. After the long-ass presentation, he apologized for his little outburst. Then he said we should finish up dinner, so we did. I didn't have much of an appetite, though, and I wouldn't be surprised if nobody else did either. We packed up dinner, and Dad started settling the tent we brought. Right before bedtime, however, Shirag came up to me. Hey, Gregory, I feel like camping outside isn't exactly the best idea around here. My father told me your family could stay in our RV with us. Would you like to? He was right. I'm not about to get mauled alive with my family watching. I quickly told the rest of the family, and they were even more overjoyed than I was. For the first time today, I felt safe, comfortable for that matter. The place looked quite nice. Honestly, there weren't enough beds for everyone, but the sofas could substitute well enough. Finally, after an entire day of straight work, we got to sleep. Wednesday. I was woken by Shirag's alarm clock around 8 a.m. in the morning. There was a distinct sound of a conversation going on outside. Mr. Gupta and Mr. Jefferson were having a talk. I couldn't make much of it, but I do know they were discussing our long-term survival plans, as well as a couple mentions for diminishing food supplies. It only made sense. None of us were ready for this. None of us got time to prepare. I tried to sleep it off, but there wasn't a point. More parents joined in, including Mum and Dad. Despite the noise, it's nice knowing they still cared about keeping our family together. Minutes later, I was called down too. I found out that adults were discussing about breaking into houses for food. I was in a daze at first, but then I remembered the hard truth. Greg, this is a pretty dangerous task, so I'll let you choose. Would you like to go with us? I really did not want to go. We have barely any resources, but I don't feel like risking my life for this. I'll go. Shit. I'm not about to let Rowley die on the first task we have. The fat ass single-handedly lowered our school's PE average by 23%. Alright, I guess I'll go. The first thing we did was find the car we ditched yesterday and fill it up with gasoline. Luckily, Mr. Gupta always kept a spare gas jug in his RV. We traveled back to Plainview, since there had to be stores or homes we could raid. Of course, however, it was teeming with the infected. Dad pulled out his gun, but Mr. Jefferson stopped them from pulling the trigger. He told us we need quieter weapons to defend ourselves. Mr. Jefferson handed Dad a knife and sent him out to fight the infected. Dad's really not the kind of guy to be athletic, but what he did really amazed me. Dag nab these walking corpses. Dad was one of the last people I'd expect to have the strength to do this. Even with the infected lunging towards him, he stood his ground and killed them all. After he cleared a safe path for the rest of us, we all started scavenging from buildings. Me and Raleigh looked around the local convenience store while Dad, Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Gupta, and Fragley searched the homes. The little visit turned to be a huge success. At the back of the shop, they stored a bunch of cardboard containers filled with instant noodles. There was enough for at least a week. We met up with the others shortly afterwards, and somehow they had the same luck as us. The way back was smooth. Dad cleared out nearly all the infected, and the ones that remained were ran over. By the time we got back, the others set up some sort of tripwire trap that sounded like an alarm when activated, making us pretty much safe from the infected that night. It's nice now, really. We have a month's worth of supplies, a lot of people, and weapons to defend ourselves with. There's nothing really to worry about for now. 3 weeks later. There hasn't been much to write about. Every day is the same. We just sit around occasionally messing around with the radio, hoping to find some new people to talk to. So far, no luck. That doesn't mean we haven't met any familiar faces, however. And that's the end of chapter 1. And you can see the tripwire being activated. Uh-oh. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe, and tell me what I should read next. I do have some plans, but I usually, like, if I see something on top of Loaded Diaper, like, I saw this, and I thought it was pretty cool. I really like the artwork in this, like, I think it's really cool how he uses, like, the original style, and kind of, I think there's a lot of, like, original drawings in the Saladar Wimpy Kid books in this, and I think that's super cool. We need to see more of that. Author really does a great job at illustrating this, and it's super cool. I really liked it. And yeah, hopefully we see chapter 2 soon. I'll make sure to read it when it comes out. But let me know, do you guys want Greg in the High School episode 6 next, or do you want like Bound by Blood chapter 3 next? Let me know. Like, subscribe. Peace out. Bye.